Hello and welcome to Gin with Gwynne. This is where I talk about data, marketing, and philosophy. This week is kind of an amusing story, but it also has a lot of good business lessons in it. It's about how I personally single-handedly delayed the entire world's supply of licorice Allsorts. So if you're not familiar with Bertie Bassett, he is a type of confectionery sweets that is licorice based, and they have like a little character. It's something that is manufactured in Rotherham in Yorkshire in the UK. And we have to go back in time. I'm working in manufacturing and I am sort of head of growth. I get all of the email inquiries about everything basically. And one day I receive an email from some random contact in India that says that they have paid us incorrectly £8,000 and a bit. Can we send the money back? I look at this email for 30 seconds or something, and the email address doesn't match up to the company address. This guy doesn't have any credentials or anything. So I'm like, cool, this is just a scam. And I put it in junk. And I don't even think to ask my colleagues who are sat right next to me, hey, did we get any money from this people? Doesn't even cross my mind. I just assume that it's a scam and I delete it. A week passes by. I'm back in the office and I get a call from India from this chap that says, I sent you an email last week. Why have you not returned the money? Why have you not come back to me? Very, very angry guy, like really shouting down the phone at me. And I'm like, excuse me, sir. I looked you up on LinkedIn. You didn't exist. I looked at your email address and it didn't match Mondelez's website. To which he's like, well, I work at the shared service center and we've got our own domain name, obviously. And I'm like, oh, is this common knowledge that everybody knows? Apparently, and I also said to him, well, we're dealing with Rotherham. We're not dealing with anybody in India, as far as we know. We've never had any contact with you. This guy is so angry, and of course, from his point of view, we've just basically got some money incorrectly and stolen it. So I said, hang on, let me look into this for you. So now I go and ask my colleague, and he says, yes, we did get some money, but we're expecting some money because they need to order the part that we need to make. So we're sort of expecting it. We thought it was prepayment, if anything. I go back to this guy. I said, oh, we think it's prepayment, blah, 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 blah. He's not happy at all. He wants his money back. Probably he's going to get fired for this mistake that he's made. And so I said to him, can you double check with Rotherham, and can you get Rotherham to call me, because that's who we've got contact with? Can you get them to phone me and just confirm everything you're saying? That's outrageous, and why can't you do this, and you're thieves and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, if you don't get them to call me, I'm not going to do anything. Okay. Another week passes, a whole week, and somebody from Rotherham finally calls us and he says, why are you withholding payment? What's the issue here? And I explained to him and just say I thought it was a scam email. Generally didn't think it was even true. Do you need this part, by the way? We're pretty sure you need it in the meantime. They said, yeah, we need this part. You need to start making this part. And so at this point, it goes over to my boss, who's, head of manufacturing and all that kind of stuff. But the guy from India keeps phoning us and he's like, well, why won't you give the money back and then we'll pay you back once you've made the part? That's how this works. You should know this is not how business is done, blah, blah, blah. Why are you keeping the money? And my boss is like, excuse me, sir. Last time it took you 4 months to pay us for this part that you need. We've got the money in the bank account. You need the part. Why don't we just keep the money and we'll make the part? How about that? I said, but what if there's something wrong with it and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, well, we've made the same part for like 12 years or something. We know how to make this part. If there's any problems with it, we can sort that out. Don't worry about it. But, the money's here. Why don't we just use it as prepayment? Isn't that more sensible than us having to send it back to you and you having to send it back? And to be frank, we didn't want to wait 4 months extra after we'd made the part, I'd like to point out, to then get that money back. So this argument goes on for weeks and weeks and weeks until finally the guy from Rotherham phones back and he says, okay, just keep the money, Oliver, because at this point you are literally delaying the entire world's supply of Bertie Bassett's Allsorts, and it is going to cost us an absolute fortune. And my boss was a little bit tempted to be like, "Oh, what a shame. We've got too much on. We can't make this part yet." But he was not feeling so cruel that day. And so we had already made the part. We sent the part to them. They were able to continue operations of Birdie Bassett's. But this situation is unbelievably dumb. So the first thing is shared services. What are they? Well, basically, what you do is you have a department of people, in his case, accounting, and you normally you offshore them or you nearshore them from where your main base of operations is. So if you've got an office in London, maybe you say, "Hey, we need loads of finance people. Let's stick them in India," which was the case in this particular case. And you do that one because it saves a lot of cost. You've got all of your talent in one place. Sometimes, depending where you pick, it can be easier to choose. And there's still a lot of savings that can be made from shared services today. But certainly, if you're going to go down that route, I would certainly suggest that their email needs to match the rest of the company. It's like the people in Rotherham had a Mondelez email. This guy had something with words literally missing from it. So it seems suspicious. The second is if you're in accounting or procurement, have credentials, have some way of people checking that you are who you are, especially when you're tracking down money. That just makes common sense to me. You can track me down if you want. I have credentials. You can look me up on LinkedIn and I am who I say I am, all this kind of stuff. And third is, I understand that this guy probably he was very worried and maybe he was going to get fired or something, but he was unbelievably angry and rude to me, like I had done something wrong. And if he had been a little bit nicer to us, probably we'd have just said, "Oh yeah, sure, no worries. Do you need? We can give you the money back, or why don't we give you half back? We'll make the part. When you're happy with the part, give us the other half, or something like that." But because he was so rude from us, and because he hounded us so much, we weren't inclined to do that. We knew that they needed the part. The third thing is that because he is sitting in India and he's not really talking to the production team in Rotherham, the entire world supply of Bertie Bassett's Allsorts was delayed, which was costing them much more than the £8,000 that they were paying us for this part, costing them loads of money every day. And I don't think he realised that. He was still happy to negotiate for weeks and hound us for this money on the matter of principle and processes and probably his own job, which I appreciate. When really he should have gone, hang on a second, how important is this particular part? Is it going to cause a problem, team in Rotherham? And either he should have just delegated to them and said, okay, I'll let you handle it. You know, we were only up the road in Bradford. They could have come and checked the part themselves if they wanted to and checked it was okay. And then gone, okay, you can keep the money. Common sense did not prevail in this particular case. And so I think whenever we're thinking about processes and we're thinking about, money is an area of normally very well-defined processes. Mistakes get made. Sometimes you have to think about common sense. And you also have to think about what is fair to both you and your suppliers. Because if you want good suppliers who are going to go above and beyond for you, or they're going to give you discounts, or if they're going to make sure that they deliver on time and they're not going to optimize other clients, then you've got to be fair to them. We had to wait 4 months originally to be paid for this part, which was already done and approved and in operations. That's not great for us. When we got paid incorrectly, we thought it was, oh, good, they're actually changing the way they work with us. That's even better. We'll prioritize these guys now. Long-term, strategic-wise, this is a crucial part that they needed, I'll say. It doesn't really make sense to you. Once you've got a supply for that, treat them well because you need people who can do that. This is a big, hard thing to make. It's not like there were loads of people who can machine that particular part. And so when you're looking at these things, one is, yeah, sometimes things go wrong. You have to go outside of process, but also always come back to the business strategy. Always assess what is the risk? What is the cost of that risk? These things you are probably doing if you're a huge company like Mondelez, I'm sure. So think about those things on a practical level. I know it's hard to do that when your job is there and you've made a mistake and you're trying to get back money. But if you've thought about that, the outcome can benefit everybody. And actually, in that case where he had initially, maybe he was angry, but if he'd have talked to Rotherham and said, oh, yeah, we need this part, and said, okay, this is prepayment. We want a good relationship with you guys. Everyone would have won and we'd have made that part maybe a little bit sooner, or we'd made sure we had some in stock, which was a risk to us. So that's an amusing story about how me and my boss basically delayed the world's supply of licorice Allsorts. And sorry if you didn't see any on the shelves at that time. It was my fault. Tune in next week for some more stories and insights, and thanks for watching.